Hey there, everybody. This is post-production Fletcher and Data coming at you. My name is Fletcher. This is Data.
Yep.
Just a quick disclaimer for this episode. This episode has a villain who is referred to repeatedly in the show and by us as the albino. And it has come to our attention that this might be part of a long-standing tradition of lazy writing, of making people with albinism to be villains or twisted in some way. We don't approve of any of that. We definitely don't approve of going on like crazy revenge murder missions against albinos unless you have a really, really good reason. But you need to examine your motivations for doing that.
I was about to say that's oddly specific. It's like we don't necessarily support crazy revenge murder missions against anyone.
Yeah, we don't support any kind of crazy revenge murder missions. That's on you. That's a personal decision you have to make in your heart. I just encourage you to look at what your true motivations might be in the case the person you're going after is a person with albinism. And any people with that condition, we have nothing against you. We welcome all to the Undeclared Bajor podcast.
Honestly, I feel like in that particular episode, like the motivation is I might be similarly motivated to murder someone who had killed my child. So yeah. Regardless of any extenuating circumstances about who the person was.
Right. Yeah. No commentary on what it means that this particular villain was an albino or anything like that. Just saying, we just want to get that on the record.
Yep.
With that said, enjoy the episode. Greetings, all you Dahar masters out there. Welcome to Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch, Season 2. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hi.
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 2, Episode 19, Blood Oath. Alternate title, Bloodless Sword Fights. But I gotta say, they did a good job with this title.
No, yeah, the title totally fits, for once.
Possibly the best title of the season. A quick note on spoilers in case our rewatch is your first watch. Expect full spoilers through this episode, but only an appropriate minimum of minor spoilers for later in the series. Nothing too big, like when it's revealed that Jake is actually Sisko's father.
Okay. I don't know how that would work, but okay.
Who can forget that incredible twist? This episode originally aired March 27th, 1994, and I messed up last time and I said the wrong date, the original air date.
How dare.
And it's really annoying because I already uploaded the episode and I only realized it when I was writing the script for this one. So I'm going to have to take the episode down, re-edit it, re-upload it.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Or I just won't do that. Will anybody notice? I should say there's like a prize for if anybody notices I said the wrong date. I don't know what that prize would be.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm trying to think of what prize that would be.
This episode was written by Peter Allen Fields and directed by Windrich Kolbe. So I looked him up on YouTube, and when you search his name on YouTube, the first clip is a clip of Kate Mulgrew from a Star Trek convention where somebody asks her about her relationship with him. Which, by the way, that's a really personal question. But
yep, it is.
Like the very first thing she does is she's like, his name is pronounced Windrich Kolbe. It's German.
Thanks.
So I was like, okay, we got that finally on the record. But she spoke very fondly of him, so that was very nice. Anyway, in this episode,
yep,
Quark leads Odo to the holosuites, complaining that a customer who only paid for 1 hour of entertainment has been in there for hours. Which, is this the first time we've seen this corridor for the holosuites?
I don't know. We've been in the holosuite before. I don't recall if we've been just outside the holosuite before.
And in that little, like, claustrophobic corridor that's like one you'd find in a movie theater or something. This customer turns out to be a drunken old Klingon named Kor, whom Odo leads away to the drunk tank, and whom you might recognize from TOS episode... whatever. I don't know.
I thought you were going to pull it out for a second, and then you're like, I don't know, something, I guess.
I know that Koloth is from Trouble with Tribbles.
Kor was in, let's see, Errand of Mercy?
Okay.
That's what it says. And an animated series episode.
Oh, nice.
Called The Time Trap.
Ooh. Yep, I always rely on you as our head of research to find these things. So while Kor sleeps it off in Odo's jail, Odo is shocked to find another old Klingon in his office. "How did you get in here?" demands Odo. Standing in front of the wide-open door to the promenade, the man tries to play this off as a badass moment, saying simply, "I am Koloth."
Oh, I forgot to mention that back... Kor was in the Holosuite fighting the Battle of Undeclared, and I looked up information about Undeclared, and apparently they establish in an episode of Enterprise that Undeclared is the Klingon name for the Briar Patch that we saw back in Insurrection.
Okay.
And so apparently there was a big Klingon Romulan battle in or near the Briar Patch. And I don't know how that battle involves like hand-to-hand combat, given that that's a big region of space and there's not a lot of planets that we know of there. But yeah, this is one of those things that I feel like Enterprise likes to be like, hey, look, we know stuff from other Star Trek shows, and they throw a bunch of stuff in there, but then when you think about it, it doesn't actually make any sense.
Interesting. I mean, there could be other planets and moons in there. We don't know. We just know that like it's really hard to your warp drives don't work in there or something, right?
Yep. But apparently that was Klingon territory at some point, and then the Klingons and Romulans fought about it.
And just the Baku were living in there all this time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Undisturbed?
It's actually more complicated than that in the episode Enterprise, because like there's a Sung involved in some way or something, but I didn't go all that deep into it.
Someone will have to write a novel that like sorts all this stuff out. See, Koloth is outraged at the treatment of Kor, a Klingon Dahar master. Odo agrees to release Kor into Koloth's custody, but Koloth suddenly decides he's too angry at Kor's drunken behavior and tells Odo to keep him. Odo goes to Ops to complain about his Klingon afternoon.
Every time Klingons visit the station, I have a Klingon afternoon.
Yep, I believe it. I just love Odo's constant exasperation through this entire episode. It's very amusing. When Odo mentions the name Kor, Dax's ears perk up. She goes with Odo back to the jail, where she offers to take responsibility for Kor. Dax explains to Kor that she used to be his old friend, Curzon Dax, and proves it by telling him that his left Kivon aches every time his ship hits Warp 8, which I assume must mean testicle. Or some organ that only Klingons have.
Either way.
They embrace and go off to find Koloth, whom they find in Quark's weirdly cutting his cake with a dagger.
Yeah, he practices cuts and thrusts with his food.
Yeah, but, that didn't look like a martial type cut or thrust. He was just, delicately, shoving his dagger into the cake, but whatever.
Okay, so a Kivon, spelled Qivon, the listing says, is a symmetrical organ in Klingon anatomy. That's the information that is provided. Oh, but according to the Star Trek Encyclopedia, 3rd edition, this was the Klingon word for knee.
Oh, lame.
That's in a little box at the bottom of the entry, and I don't know what being in a box means versus not being in a box, but...
Kor and Koloth explain that someone named Kang summoned the four of them together after 81 years. And as soon as his name is mentioned, Kang shows up and announces he has found the albino.
But he didn't know that this whole thing is strange to me because he explains that, like, yeah, I didn't contact you over subspace because I didn't want the albino to find out.
Right. He has ears across the galaxy.
Yeah.
Somehow.
So instead, he calls Kang. I mean, he calls Koloth and Kor, presumably via subspace, and is like, "Hey, meet me at Deep Space Nine," because I guess he somehow knows that's where Dax is, but he doesn't know that Dax is no longer Curzon Dax. So did he call someone at Starfleet? And he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for someone named Dax," and they're like, "Okay, we have one person named Dax, and they're here." And like, he didn't look into it any further. It's just very strange.
But he didn't call them on subspace. He went to the Federation embassy on Kronos in person and asked them to look up where Dax is. And they were like, Dax is on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And maybe he contacted Kang and Koloth via like Kronos Postal Service or something like that.
Yeah, he sent some letters.
Who knows? The fact that this albino apparently monitors all subspace communications in the entire galaxy.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, very impressive.
But so now that we've got them all three together, good time to point out that all three are reprised by the actors from the original series.
Yes.
Who played the same roles.
We didn't say what Kang's episode was.
Oh, right. So Kang is from... Hold on, I'll bring that up. One of them appears in the animated series, and I'm going to have to look up which one it is, but one of them appears in the animated series, but not with the same actor. With, James Doohan plays him, or does the voice. Let's see. So Kang appears, a Voyager flashback, this episode, and Day of the Dove.
Ooh, that sounds like a fancy episode. That's an original series episode?
Day of the Dove, yeah.
I'm not an expert on the original series, so...
Day of the Dove is about an extremely powerful non-corporeal being brings the Enterprise and a Klingon ship into direct conflict with each other.
Ah. Is the being the dove?
The being is... I believe it's known as the Beta 12 entity or something like that. I am also not big on the original series, right. But I do know like that particular entity because it shows up in like a book trilogy that I read. That's like it's like the Q Continuum trilogy or something, where it turns out when Q was younger, he like accidentally let these things into our galaxy, and they each have like their own shtick. Like one of them specializes in like intergenerational conflict and appears in the original series as like Gorgon or something. I forget his name. The Beta 12 entity, which in the book series I believe is just known as like Asterisk. Like that's the name that it always puts for him, is just an asterisk. And it like it likes war between people. It like makes them angry and makes them fight each other. And then there was the third one is like is from the movie. Like he gets banished to the center of the galaxy at the end of the trilogy, and it's then they meet him in that movie where he's pretending to be God.
That's God. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so it was an interesting trilogy, but obviously not actually canon to the show.
Sure. So did you have something else to say about the three Klingons being played by the original actors?
So when they came up with this idea, originally it was going to be just new Klingons. And then someone was like, hey, why don't we do this thing? And so they're like, okay, let's see if we can find those guys. And two of them were still acting, so they didn't have a lot of trouble finding them. I believe it was, I think it was Kor and Kang. Those actors were still acting. That's Michael Ansara and John Colicos.
Okay.
But William Campbell, they couldn't find at first. Like, what's happened to this guy? Where did he go? And he played Koloth. He also played the Squire of Gothos in the original series. But eventually they found out that he was doing like Star Trek conventions on cruise ships.
Huh.
So I guess he was just like like parlaying those 2 roles that he played in the original series into a livelihood at that point on these cruise ships. So when they finally found him, he was like, oh yeah, I'll totally be on Star Trek some more.
Nice. Okay, so they all go back to Dax's quarters, where Kang tells the story of how he tracked down this albino, whom they have all apparently taken a blood oath to kill. And the albino is in the Sikaris system. Anyway, and there's this long story about how he found one of the albino's ex-wives, and then
one of his discarded wives. I like the way that he puts that.
I guess this guy just has a ton of wives and just discards them all over the place.
Yep.
And then when she died, she sent him an amulet that had the location of him in it or something. Kang happily tells them that finally they will be able to catch the albino, so that Kang can rip out his heart and eat it while the albino watches with his dying breath.
See, I wonder if the albino has a name. Like that's the first question I have when they just always refer to him as the albino. But apparently in the script, the albino is described as an all-white humanoid in good physical shape for a man of 100. And so I guess he wasn't necessarily like an albino Klingon originally.
Right. Yeah, he didn't look like a Klingon to me.
He looks kind of Klingon-y. But apparently StarTrek.com describes the albino as a ruthless Klingon criminal.
Huh.
So he calls like the Klingons when they show up like filth and scum. And so I was like, is he or is he? I don't know what's up with this guy.
I read him as not a Klingon, but I also just like imagining when Kang is giving this speech about ripping out his heart and eating it in front of him while he dies. The network censor is just like, wait, what? It's like, no, we gotta have a talk about this.
Well, we're not gonna show it. I assume it still happened.
Right. So later, Kang and Dax stroll the promenade, where Kang says he did not know Curzon was dead. So this is that whole thing we were talking about earlier. He tries to release Jadzia from Curzon's oath, but Jadzia still feels an obligation to help bring down the albino.
Because she's the godfather of the dead son of Kang.
Right. It's a very, sure, Dax has a lot of emotions carried over about that.
Really? Like, apparently all 3 of them lost their sons to the albino, but we only hear about, like, Kang wanting revenge for his son. The other 2 don't talk about their sons much.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Dax wasn't as close with their sons or something. Later, Dax tells Kira the story of how the albino killed the sons of Kor, Koloth, and Kang. The son of Kang being Dax's godson, who was named after him.
Yep.
So his name was Dax, son of Koloth, or Dax, son of Kang, or whatever. Kira warns her that killing is not something to be taken lightly.
I mean, presumably some of Dax's previous toasts have killed, but...
I was trying to think, have we ever seen Dax kill somebody before? But I could not remember.
That's a good question. I'm like, has she fired some, phasers at people, or I don't know.
But she says, not some nameless person, but, someone that you go deliberately kill. So I assume, they put that in there as kind of a fail-safe in case there was something they forgot, or we later learn that one of her hosts was a serial killer or something.
Right. I mean, if there was a serial killer, then that is going to deliberately kill someone, so I don't...
Yeah, well,
That doesn't necessarily cover that, but...
that's also not a good way to start a conversation. It's like, hey, can you tell me about all the people you killed?
Yeah, she starts out how many people did you kill? And Kira's like, excuse me? This is a messed up question to just randomly pull out of the air and ask someone.
Yeah, maybe kind of soften, lead into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk to you about something really personal and serious. And then go into asking how many people they've killed or something. Dax goes to Kor to get him to talk Kang and Koloth into letting her join, but finds that Kor has a pretty bad case of self-pitying old man-itis. And also he's very distracted hitting on Dabo girls and getting drunk.
It's actually a great moment where he's just got his arms around 2 different girls, and he's like, "Oh no, how do I drink my ale now?" It's pretty funny.
That man, I guess he He enjoys the simple pleasures in life. So she goes to find Koloth practicing his sword skills in the holosuite, but Koloth tries to send her away, saying Dax was never more than a politician, and her presence would just endanger the mission. So to prove herself, she challenges Koloth to a Batleth fight, in which she is able to hold her own well enough to earn Koloth's respect.
After she spends like a minute and a half giving a description of exactly what she wants the Batleth to be like.
Yeah, she's like, I want it to be like, it's like 102 centimeters long, and I want it to weigh 5.6 kilograms.
Apparently it's a warrior's configuration, as opposed to other configurations when you want to use a Batleth not for war.
Yeah, I would have just said, can you make me another Batleth like the one he's got?
Yeah, just the same one. It's fine.
That probably would have been better. So she earns Koloth's respect. Kor and Kang walk in and are able to catch the end of it. But Kang still refuses to let her join the quest. Dax tries to convince Kang by calling back to their shared past, but Kang tellingly says he can't allow Jadzia to die in Curzon's place. Dax reminds him that she's not planning on dying, and then makes all kinds of slights to his honor until finally he gets really mad and agrees to let her come.
It's like, fine, come and die, whatever. There's a thing in here where Terry Farrell talks about the episode and how much she likes it. Uh-huh. She's like, I had to have this, this different approach with each of them to convince them. Like with Kor, I had to convince him that he was a hero and that in my eyes he'd always be a hero. Right. So that was philosophical. And with Koloth, I had to prove I was strong enough. So that was physical. And then with Kang, I had to prove to him that my desire and need to be a part of this blood oath was strong enough that I could not imagine staying behind, and that I was mentally strong and capable enough. So I had to exhibit the honor, the strength, and the mental perseverance to go with them. And I was like, wow, she really thought through this in detail.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Dax episode, so
this may be the best Dax episode that we've had, I think.
Yeah, that's actually one of my notes. This is definitely the best Dax episode so far.
Yeah.
Although Kor was not hard to convince. In fact, he seemed like all ready to let her join at the very beginning.
He's like, of course you should come and have fun.
It's like, come on, let's kill some people. Let's do it. So I would never tell somebody to sit out on a big bloody battle.
Kor's so overconfident.
Yeah. So in Dax's quarters, Cisco shows up while Dax is packing and tells her PTO request is not approved.
Nope.
Also, he reminds her that it's not really up to the standards of a Starfleet officer to leave your post and go off on a revenge murder mission.
Which, fair points.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. But Dax holds firm to her decision, grabs her suitcase, and walks out.
She's like, you can let me go, or you can, just put me down as AWOL, I guess, but I'm going.
On their way to Sikaris, the four make plans for their assault. Dax suggests a sneak attack, but Kang insists on a far more dangerous direct assault. Privately, Dax confronts Kang, and he admits that he made a deal with the albino to fight it out with his 40 best men in one big final battle, one that would allow the Klingons to die a glorious, honorable death worthy of a Dahar master.
Yeah, apparently the albino, it sounds like the story about the ex-wife was true.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, as soon as he receives the locket with the location, the albino already knows about it, and it's like sending a message.
Well, I think he said he went to the planet. He went to Sikaris.
Oh, yeah.
And then the albino immediately knew when he arrived.
Yeah, I think maybe instead of he's secretly monitoring all subspace communication in the galaxy, I think maybe Kang just has someone close to him on the albino's payroll to tip him off when albino-related things happen.
That makes a lot more sense. That's than the albino hears all from afar.
I mean, presumably Kang shows up in a cloaked ship, and the albino's like, I know you're there. So I'm like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
He's not magic.
Yeah, I think Kang needs to do a little bit of mole hunt in his crew. Yeah, I just the way he talks about him it's the eye of Sauron or something.
Yep.
It's his gaze pierces all. But anyway, Dax is like, no, fuck that. Let's just go kill the albino. I'll shoot some Tetrions at the albino's base and take out everyone's phasers, and we can run in and fight them with swords. Which, that's a neat trick.
Yeah, right? I want to see that done more often.
That seems like that would be very handy for a lot of situations. Like
on Star Trek, you don't often see situations where they really want to do hand-to-hand combat. At least, the Federation.
Well, but like imagine a situation like, you're having peace talks or something.
And
you don't want anybody to bring any weapons. So you just, shoot some Tetrions at wherever you're having the talks and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Seems kind of OP.
But then, of course, obviously they would just counter with using gunpowder-based weapons or something. So it probably wouldn't.
Let's see your Tetrion stop bullets.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't work that well in the long run. So the gang show up at the Albinos compound, which appears to be a Frank Lloyd Wright house.
It is, in fact,
okay.
a Frank Lloyd Wright house.
So don't tell me which one it is. Because I have a Frank Lloyd Wright kind of coffee table book that I bought when I was at Falling Water last year.
Okay.
So I'm going to flip. I was flipping through it earlier. I couldn't quite make it out, but I'm going to flip through one more time and see if I can make a good guess which one it is. So where were those houses that all look the same? This is not my official guess, but I think so. Okay. My best guess right now is the Ennis house, but I want to look at the some of these other houses real fast. So other candidates are the Freeman house, the Storer house. Actually, I might switch my vote to the Storer house because it has these really distinct looking tiles. And then I think this is the Hollyhock house, which I think it is not. I have actually been to the Hollyhock house. Okay, so my official guess then is the Storer house.
Okay, so this house is...
Oh, wait, no, stop.
Okay.
Because it might also be the Alice Millard house. Also known as La Miniatura. Yeah, I'm switching my vote to the Alice Millard house.
Okay.
Okay, so what's the answer?
This house was the first of Frank Lloyd Wright's 4 textile block houses, all built in Los Angeles County in 1923 and 1924.
Mm-hmm.
This one is the Millard House.
Oh, yes! That's what I said, right?
Yep. Initial critical response to the Millard House and the textile block structures was not positive. The homes were greeted with howls of laughter, as Beaux Arts trained architects were appalled to see a common building material used for the facades and interior walls of expensive homes.
Yeah, that's what the section of this book is called, Materials as Metaphors.
So I guess take that, Frank Lloyd Wright.
I think they're cool looking houses.
Over the years, critical views of the Millard House became positive, and it's now considered one of Wright's finest works.
See, although the buildings were built of concrete, they often impart a patina of age, as if the material was decomposing and returning back to nature from which it came. Okay, so that was a fun little quiz. I just thought we'd try that out. Okay, so they show up at the Albinos compound, which is the Alice Millard house. Dax reveals the albino planted a big mine at the spot they were supposed to have their glorious battle. So that plan wasn't going to work.
Shockingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, shockingly, he wasn't on the level.
I cannot believe it. So they come up with a plan to sneak in while Dax creates a diversion. Inside the fortress, the albino scrambles to prepare his defenses for the attack he should have known was coming because he scheduled it earlier with Kang, but... Then the door blows open and the gang bursts in and strikes a cool pose while Gang shouts, "Look upon your executioners, killer of children." I'm also pretty sure this pose is on a card.
I don't remember that one, but it could be.
I distinctly remember this pose with the 4 of them just all standing there holding their swords. They start slashing and stabbing all the albinos guards, and are somehow able to kill them without a single drop of blood. However, Koloth is mortally wounded in this fight.
Oh no.
No, Koloth. He's gonna have to go back to that cruise ship now. Kang finally meets the albino in single combat, but his sword breaks, and the albino stabs him. Dax rushes in to take up the fight, and the albino taunts her that she doesn't have the heart to kill him. Dax hesitates, but Kang puts an end to it by stabbing the albino in the asshole, which immediately kills him.
It's like, thank you for saving me the final... The card is Blood Oath, by the way. I just found it.
That makes sense.
Yep.
For sure. What does it do?
It is an incident, plays on a non-Borg personnel who has integrity of less than 8 and no honor, and it adds a, what do you call it, the symbol that makes you fight other people with the reverse symbol, nemesis icon.
Ah. Yeah, but yes, Kang does thank Dax for saving the death blow for him. Which, did he really believe that's what happened? Or was that what happened?
Well, I don't think that's what happened, and I don't think he believes that, but I mean, he's about to die, so he's trying to be positive.
Yeah, he's trying to put the honorable, spin on the situation. But yeah, then he dies.
And the albino falls down the stairs, and Kang just falls over.
Yep.
And then Kor and Dax presumably cut out his heart and eat it.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dax returns to duty at Deep Space Nine, presumably with a stomach full of albino heart.
Yep.
It's just, it's never explicitly stated, but it's like, she better eat that heart. It's like, she
if she doesn't, what was it all for?
Yep. Cisco gives her the stink eye, but says nothing. Kira looks at her knowingly. The end. I'm glad I made it through that whole thing without accidentally saying Kang and Godos.
This episode has a lot of kind of lofty origins, according to the wiki, where it's like the writer originally called it The Beast, and he modeled the story after the Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven, and and also based core on the character of Falstaff from Shakespeare. And so I like when you get to the end, it talks about how he modeled, it's like Samurai, the Seven Samurai, the Magnificent Seven, and then he's like, I don't think that really came across in the final version of the script.
Yeah, well, isn't the Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven is just an American remake of the Seven Samurai, right?
Yes, it's a 1960 remake.
And that story is about some cowboys or some samurais defending a village from some bandits or whatever, right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's not about going and getting revenge on an albino.
Definitely not about getting revenge on an albino, no. But then there's also a quote in here from Winrich Kolbe, who says, this was the closest thing to Beowulf that I ever saw. There was a mythological quality to it, and the guys were real heroes. I played Wagner in my mind the whole day, and it gave a feel that was beyond episodic television. And then he continues, it was really the Three Musketeers on a small scale, where Dax is D'Artagnan.
Yeah, that was totally my vibe, was Three Musketeers.
But I just like all these various sources. It's like, it's the Seven Samurai and Beowulf and also the Three Musketeers.
You're listening to Wagner.
Yeah.
I think some Wagner would pair really well with this episode.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah, I mean, we talked about how it was easily one of the best Dax episodes.
Yep.
So what do we have?
Dax. It's not a good one.
There was
the procedures episode.
Yeah, invasive procedures.
Yeah.
And then the one that we just did a couple of weeks ago, Playing God.
Yeah, okay.
So I feel like there's been a definite upward slope in the quality of the Dax character. I
mean, we're gradually getting more personality as the series goes, which makes sense.
Right. That's to be expected.
Yeah.
But it kind of plays with a lot of the themes of Dax.
Yeah, being responsible for stuff from your previous life. But this one, she actually talks, and she takes initiative in her life to do things based on that, as opposed to, Dax, where she does nothing.
Yeah. So, it's and then, they make it very clear. It's she is not bound by this blood oath, but it's she still has enough of that, of Curzon inside of her to where it's she wants to see this revenge done or whatever. So, she feels driven to do it, which is a really cool kind of way of doing the whole Dax symbiote thing.
Yeah.
And then also, personally, this is one of my favorite Klingon episodes ever. Because I tend to find that Klingon episodes are a bunch of Klingons standing around insulting each other's honor tediously. And this one is just more this one is what Klingons should be, where they're just like they're going out in a blaze of glory. They're gonna like do it.
Klingon episodes, I don't know if I would agree with you exactly, but Klingon episodes have a tendency to get very bogged down in honor and like different people's definition. Like I guess up to this point, the main source of Klingon episodes we have is the Next Generation, so they're like Worf centric things. Right. And you end up with stuff like when Worf's back gets broken and he's like, I have to commit honorable suicide now. Uh-huh. And you get bogged down in these like, is that really honorable, or are you taking it easy? And because you are almost always dealing with Klingon stuff through the lens of Federation morals. Yeah, it gets very bogged down in like, well, are the Klingons right or the Federation right? And in this case, we go pretty much all Klingon, and Sisko shows up to be like, no, Federation, and Dax is like, F you, Sisko, yeah. I'm going to go off in Klingon.
Yep.
So yeah, I like that approach better than what we've done in the past of getting bogged down in this like, is that right or is it not right?
Yeah, as opposed to, with Worf, there's just always all this like, there is honor upon your family. No, there is dishonor upon your family, but you have regained the honor of your family. It's like, oh, jeez.
Even episodes of The Next Generation that were like very Kronos-centric tended to lean heavily on Picard. And like, we were going through all this stuff from Picard's perspective as he helped Worf through things.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? And then, she called him Koloth at one point. That was weird. Yeah. I imagine that was like an early filmed scene or something before they had remembered how his name was pronounced, I guess. They went back and watched The Trouble with Tribbles.
Yeah, it's there was a note in here about how they kill him off in this episode because they didn't know they were going to do anything in the future that might be related to him. And then it was when they get to a future episode, it's like, oh man, we could have used him here.
Yeah, like definitely it would have been great to see King and Koloth come back, but oh well. It adds a little bit of weight to it that some people actually did die in the battle.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It would feel a little bit too Saturday morning cartoon if they just like, we're all victorious and there was no cost.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And apparently in the original script, they weren't sure at the beginning whether like they were all going to survive or if one was going to, whether they were all going to die or if one was going to live. Mm-hmm. And so, William Campbell, who played,
Koloth.
No, okay. Sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. John Colicos, who played Kor, was like, originally when he gets the script, he's like, I don't want to play this character. Like, look what you've done to Kor. You've turned him into like this buffoon, and I don't want to be in the show if you're going to do that to him. Huh. And then the people on the show were like, no. So he starts out like this Dipsy Falstaffian character, but then he becomes heroic at the end.
Right.
And so the Colicos is like, okay, well, let me see the end before I agree or don't agree. And they weren't sure whether they were going to kill everybody off. And so he claims that he's the one who comes in and argues. It's like, look, if you're thinking about keeping one of us alive, it has to be me. I better be the Ishmael who lives to tell this story. And when they gave me that, I was like, okay, I'll be in the episode then.
Huh. I guess that turned out to be a good move on his part. I think he squeezed a little bit more work out of that.
He did.
Possibly. Yeah, so, okay. Any other interesting facts?
Let's see.
From the Master of Research? Any novels?
The interior of the Albino's fortress was built on Paramount Stage 18. The fortress set was used in the episode Masks.
Oh boy.
As the Maska Temple.
I do remember that like big tall staircase. Is that where the big tall staircase was?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. That makes sense.
The exterior was the Frank Lloyd Wright house we talked about. Oh, it's to set the mood for the fight sequence. Winrich Kolbe played Wagner's Götterdämmerung on set to get people in the right mood.
Twilight of the Gods.
What else?
Like, isn't that a whole opera?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he probably played parts. But I think you're right that is like the whole. What else is in here? Anything else interesting? I like the actors were surprised when they showed up and found out that they were going to have to get into like modern Klingon makeup because none of them, they were all pre-Klingon head ridges and stuff.
Right, exactly. I was wondering about that when I was watching the episode. I was like, but I felt like I think it was Kang, his outfit, like his actual clothes, looked vaguely classical Klingon. So I wonder if they did that on purpose or that was just me imagining things.
Maybe. But the guy who plays Koloth says that they got in there and they were doing the makeup, and the guy who plays Kang says to him, "Bill, I haven't worked in 6 years. This is going to kill me." Like the whole long makeup process.
Right.
Let's see. There are some books related to things. Kang later appears in a Voyager episode called Flashback. So I guess there's he got a little more work.
Okay.
O'Brien, Bashir, and Jake don't appear in the episode.
Oh yeah. Which this is a super focused character episode, so.
Yep.
Not a big surprise there.
The guy who plays Koloth will come back in an episode of Deep Space Nine as a different character.
Ooh. You kept saying William Campbell, and I was like, isn't that the guy that George Lucas, like, had consult on Star Wars? And I was like, no, that's Joseph Campbell. So I'll bring that up in case anybody was having that same confusion.
Let's see. There is a book called Forged in Fire that is a prequel of sorts to this episode, giving insight on the background of the albino, whose name we learn is Kagh, Qagh.
Okay.
And on Curzon's relationship with the Klingons. There's also a sequel comic book called Remembrance.
Okay. That's, yeah, I would imagine, like, the adventures of Kor, Kang, and Koloth are ripe for exploration in novels.
Yeah, I bet I bet they pop up a lot in novels. Let's see if I can find out any information on that. Koloth, son of Lashar, Kor, son of Rhinar, and Kang, son of Kanaya. Is talks about in Memory Beta. So, Koloth has a bunch of appearances in Memory Beta stuff. It seems like. Let's see. Yeah, they're Errand of Vengeance novels. So I guess it's a series of original series novels: The Edge of the Sword, Killing Blow, and River of Blood. Okay, what about Kor? Do you appear in a bunch of stuff? His is a very long entry in here, so it seems like he should. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, he's in the original series episode Errand of Mercy, the original series novel Spock Must Die, the animated series episode The Time Trap, and then a bunch of comics and a bunch of novels. Kor is all over the place.
Yes.
And what about you, Kang? Let's look up. Oh, Mirror Universe Kang. That must be a novel of some kind. So yeah, he's in some novels, some comics, short story, the episode Day of the Dove, another short story, some more novels, some more comics. So yeah, these guys are all over the extended universe of Star Trek.
And I guess it's good to have a novel about the albino, because I think that's one of my greatest complaints about the episode is that the albino is kind of a not very compelling villain, in my opinion. But, I mean, you don't really need him to be. You just need him to be the guy that these guys want to go kill. And he comes across as evil enough, I guess.
Oh, man. The albino's backstory is... So, according to this, he's a member of the House of Ngoj. His sickly appearance meant that he was considered impure. So, someone named Doyoj was to put him to death under orders from his mother. Who, his mother is the aunt of Kor. So, I guess that makes them cousins?
I guess so.
He was rescued by Orion pirates, who exploit his knowledge and abilities in the hopes of blackmailing the House of Ngoj. The pirates name him Kagh, which means mistake. That's cold.
That's a mean name.
Yeah. And apparently there's some extended stuff where, like, he has a granddaughter who comes back for revenge in some book and teams up with Toral from the House of Duras to try to kill Jadzia in a comic book, apparently.
Sure. Huh. I mean, we never hear about the albino again in the lore of the show, right?
I don't think so.
So, I guess this episode was just really fertile for book and comic book writers and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, let me check my notes real fast. Oh, I have one question. I don't know if you have this information handy. Because we said this is the Frank Lloyd Wright, Alice Millard house.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the one shot when Jadzia blows up the armory.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently that was a model.
Oh, okay. I was like, because that looked like the real house, but then like it looked like a real explosion. So I was like, whoa, did they like get permission to like set off pyrotechnics at the real house or something? Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Other than that, you're ready to jump into ratings?
Yeah, sure.
All right. You want to go first?
Yeah, okay.
Right, go first.
I really like this episode. I think that not only is it the best Dax episode that we've gotten, and like Fletcher said, I think it's quite possibly the best Klingon episode we've gotten. Just all around, I enjoy it. It's a simple story. You don't have I don't know that there's what you'd call like a B story here at all. And we have Dax like figuring out that something is up with Koloth, and so you might call that a little bit of a twist, but it's not even really much. Yeah. It's just like story development. So it's a very simple story, but I think it's a very well done story. And I'm not an original series person. I've seen some episodes, but I don't really care about them. So I don't even have that like nostalgia for these Klingons from the original series. When I first saw this episode, I did not know that they were from the original series, and I don't really care that much, except that, you know, it's interesting for the continuity of Star Trek as a whole that we're doing this stuff. But I like it a lot. I'm going to make it a captain.
All right. We got a captain. Very nice. Yeah, that whole thing with Kang, that sort of like twist where, you know, it was a well-motivated twist, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, you totally got where his headspace was when he revealed that. So, and it totally fit in with like the development of the character and stuff. It was, I thought that was like really, and then Jadzia's like, no, come on, let's make a real go at this. I thought that really worked. Put this down, Blood Oath. And again, title, man. Good job. Okay, so I was watching this, I actually watched this episode like twice. So I watched it like yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
And I was watching it on the big TV, and I don't know, I was just like eating my Subway or something. I was like, this episode's pretty good. But then I was kind of like turning over in my head. I was like, I don't know, is this captain enough for me to call it a captain? But then when I was going, I usually just like do a quick little skim through to write my notes. And I just like wound up, there were scenes I just wound up like just rewatching the whole scene or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was, you know, and as I was rewatching, I was like, you know, this is really compelling, really good. And now I can't imagine not giving it a captain. So that's what I'm going to give it.
Okay.
Captain. So we are in agreement. Just a great, you know, just one of those ones where it's just like the story works. And I thought the direction was really good. Like that shot I talked about that's on the card when the door blows open, it's just like they come in. And I was like, yay. You know, there were a lot of good shots. You know, well made all around. I think you can really tell, like you said, like Dax was getting really or not Dax, but Terry Farrell was getting really into it. It sounds like Vinrich Kolbe was getting really into it. So I think it really comes across that the whole cast and crew was kind of really into this episode. So yeah, I think that helps.
Just in relation to like the little details that were put in when Core, okay, so they shut off the power to the holosuite at the beginning, and like Core shoves the door open or whatever. Apparently they play like the whoosh sound from the doors on the original series nice. As the door is going open.
Nice little touch.
And also they were asking like, why do we have like these big head things now? And depending on which interview you look at, sometimes there's like some explanation given, like it says that one of them, when they asked, they were like, "Oh yeah, Klingons live to be very old, and this is just like a natural physical metamorphosis." But other times when they asked, it was just like, "Yeah, don't ask. This is just the way it is now."
Yeah.
And it's not until Enterprise that they establish like some sort of explanation. But even then, once again, this is Enterprise just doing crap that doesn't necessarily make any sense.
Right. Of course, there may be a time coming up when we get the very famous line, "We do not discuss it with outsiders," which I felt that was like, that's all you can do. Is just say that. Nothing else you try to do to explain it is going to be satisfying. It's like, if I may have a little segue here, in the show Star Trek Picard, like last season they brought back Guinan.
Right.
Whoopi Goldberg has obviously aged quite a bit.
Yep.
Her character is not supposed to age quite so fast, and they had this really clunky explanation of, I like to look older to make people more comfortable or something like that.
Yeah, she's just like, we can age when we want to.
And then they went back in time and they met Guinan, who's played by a different actor, even though we saw her played by Whoopi Goldberg in the 1800s.
Yeah, so it's after the 1800s when Whoopi Goldberg played her, looking like 90s Whoopi Goldberg.
Right.
And so instead she's like a younger person who looks different.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest annoyances about the time travel story, and that to me is the Guinan thing, where it's like Guinan doesn't recognize Picard despite having met him with Mark Twain.
Right.
And the directors or writers or whoever, the showrunners, were quoted as being like, well, yeah, but that's because they went back to that past from this alternate future. And so that Guinan wouldn't have met them because like the Picard from that alternate future never went back in time to whatever. And that explanation makes no actual sense.
Well, I think it just proves how absurd the time travel logic can become.
And we're just going so far I think it was just to create conflict between Guinan and Picard. It's like, oh, you can't have her trust Picard. So we have to create like this conflict where she's super upset about how people with her skin color are being treated.
Right. Guinan who lived through possibly the Civil War, like slavery, the Civil War, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Ku Klux Klan. But now, in the 2020s, this is when the problem is really bad.
Yep.
But yeah, my whole point about that was like they should have just had Guinan be Whoopi Goldberg and just not said anything about it, and nobody would have cared. So, I mean, maybe we would have like made fun of it a little bit, but
right.
Honestly, nobody would have cared. Nobody would have been as bothered as we all are with the way they handled it. And the same with Q, where Q's like, oh, I want to look like an old man too. Psh.
Yeah, right.
Although that, at least that was quick and kind of in character for Q, so.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what Q's going to do, and it's... Okay, so I guess I get that you have to come up with something, because you're not going to de-age John Delancey for all of his appearances in this thing. And honestly, he looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's...
like, he has aged well.
Yeah, and he's like a working actor, he stays in shape and stuff, so.
Yeah, so him and Q's so unpredictable that he's like, I guess let me catch up with you real quick, and then does the thing, and you're like, I get it, you had to come up with something, and really it's probably better to do it this way than to like try to make it some complicated something or other, so fine. It doesn't, the fact that we're then doing it twice with Guinan and Q, and I don't know. It almost, I would almost say, if you're gonna do the recast in the past anyway, just have that same young actress play Guinan in the future, and she hasn't aged. Like, just if you're gonna go that way, just go all the way with it and be like, we recast her. Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg would not be happy, and the fans probably wouldn't be happy.
The fans would be really mad about that, especially like if Whoopi Goldberg was like, "How come I can't be in Star Trek?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay.
You'd have to like pay her hush money or something.
But it's just. We went such a long way to and it doesn't make any sense, and
yeah
I don't know. I don't know how you could have done that really well, to be honest with you. Like I don't think there was a good approach to that.
Yeah. I mean, well, didn't they just have Data like, being played by older?
Yeah, that's true. Data, it's like, man, Data got like jowly. I don't know what's up with that, but
yeah. I think you just gotta commit to it. We're just gotta say, we're using the original actor. That's the way it is, and make it a.
I mean, older Whoopi Goldberg is not in the show for very long. She has like a scene or two. Yeah. You could have just de-aged her for 10 seconds and been done with it. But
and honestly, she looks older, but I wouldn't really have thought about it that much.
Yeah, if they hadn't made a big deal about it.
I mean, it's not like she's like this, like, decrepit old lady.
Right.
Anyway, so if you like that discussion, be sure to check out our Star Trek Picard reviews. The first episode should have come out already by the time you're listening to this. So go, that series is called The Inner Four Lights. Go check it out and tell your friends about it and your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody else who will come listen. Anyway, ready to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Let's see, I put in my notes, don't forget to plug Picard. And I have succeeded. Anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the description where I occasionally put links to interesting things. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
Adios. And
remember, every once in a while, just declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, that's Indiana Jones. My bad.